Hello, everyone. My name is Tim B. Green, and this is Crush It Club, episode 11. It's tricky today. A bias towards results. So this is based on a couple ideas. No ideas come from nowhere. So this is a combination of things I've learned and things I've kind of figured out myself, smashed together. So the best ideas I can find outside myself with the best ideas I myself have come up with. So it's fairly simple. Essentially what it is something that comes, one of the inspirations was Adam Grant's Think Again, in which he talked about the space shuttle crash and how, were it not for a certain amount of arrogance and dogma regarding NASA's bias, and NASA's bias was you need data for everything, which is normally makes a lot of sense, especially in the realm of science. But that's not always the case, because when you have an expert, in this case an engineer, who noticed scorching around those O-rings, this was before the shuttle accident, and said, I have a doubt, he was disregarded because there was a lack of data, but they didn't rely on his reliable intuitive experience, because him being an expert, his gut is worth listening to in that which he is an expert on. That's what the research says about gut feelings. Listen to the gut feelings of people who are experts or exceptionally experienced at something. All your other gut feelings, you should probably just rely on system 2 or slow thinking, deliberative thinking, objective data and stuff. So anyway, it's based on that idea and a book that I have yet to read, but I have read about, called The Power of Positive Deviance. And in The Power of Positive Deviance, they talk about people obsessing over trying to assess the cause of malnutrition in Vietnamese children. And all these smart people went and they tried to find the cause. And interestingly enough, the end result of the book, or the gist, is, spoiler alert probably, they didn't need to look for the cause. They needed to look for the result. And this is where we're getting into bias towards result, not bias towards solution, not bias towards action, which is also the inspiration for this phrase, which is my own. So what it is they found, some people have called them, the Heath brothers have called them bright spots. I believe it was the Heath brothers. And that was probably where I first heard about this book, but I'm not certain. But it talked in this book, The Power of Positive Deviance, about they, instead of looking for what is the cause from which we can then derive a solution, they said, is there anybody who has knowingly or unknowingly already solved this problem? Turned out somebody had done that. Some mother, both cleverly and unwittingly, solved the problem. She worked in the rice paddies, and as she, harvested or planted the rice or whatever sort of activities you do in a rice paddy, she would keep the freshwater shrimp that she found, put them in a bag, and just continue working. And then when she got home, she would put these freshwater shrimp in her kids' food. So without knowing it, she found the solution without ever knowing the cause. The people who looked for the cause couldn't find it, the scientists and everybody else. So they went, oh, well, now we know the solution, so the cause is far less important, right? Do you really care what the cause of malnutrition is if you know the solution to malnutrition? I'm going to say no. So the reason bias toward action isn't the whole picture, because the bias towards action, or the military uses one very similar. I think it's a bias to action. But the gist is, planning for planning's sake is ridiculous, because ultimately you have to take action on that plan and get data for real results, which I've talked about before. So my thing, a bias towards action is also like, a bias towards results is also derived from the idea in design thinking of a bias towards action, which, if I understand that correctly, is exactly like what it sounds. It's like, okay, let's pull the trigger on this and do some rapid iteration, get some real world objective data to then base further further actions, further improvements upon. So what I'm saying is a bias towards action, that doesn't mean you're acting in the right direction. It doesn't mean you're acting productively. It's like when the boss at work says, okay, is everybody doing something? And everybody's doing something. They're not doing anything productive. They're not doing anything useful. They're not doing anything towards the end of their work, the goal, but they are engaging in a bias towards action. Okay, so a bias towards action unto itself could just be action and busy work and look good for the boss or look good for the board of directors or whatever. So that's not enough either. But nor is a bias towards solutions, which is something I quite pride myself on, because a solution is good and it is towards sort of in the right direction. But when you find a solution, is it the solution to the problem you have? Ironically enough, the laser was famously known as the solution without a problem. At one point in history, when lasers were first made, it was like, cool toy, coherent light. That's very interesting. So what? Because it had no actual application. Now it has tons. So that can happen too. So my argument, and this is where we get back to Adam Grant's, he talked, instead of talking about best practices, which has an inherent arrogance that there's nothing better to be coming, is a better practice. So my proposal is that this mindset, which I'll claim as my own until someone can show me otherwise, I have not seen it elsewhere, and that is a bias towards results. In that way, what I mean is it is towards actions and solutions, but specifically directed at a desired result. So I did an article a long time ago that I can't remember the name of, that's on LinkedIn, and it talks about the Mongol horn bow, or the Turkish horn bow, which is the best non-compound bow ever conceived, the kayak, and I think I dealt with one other one. So essentially fantastic solutions which didn't have engineers behind them or anything else, but are fantastic solutions where it was like, okay, screw the hypothesis, screw the thinking about it, get down to taking action, specifically having the end result in mind. So this is what I mean by a bias towards action. So when you want to solve a problem, don't even think about this, let's solve a problem. First of all, you can say, screw the problem, jump to the solution, as in the Power of Positive Deviance. So be solution bias, but go one step beyond that to solution bias plus action bias plus trajectory, which is where it becomes a bias towards results. So in other words, okay, we're going to take action in the direction of a solution which has the desired result we want. So that's what I mean when I talk about a bias towards solutions. So this is begin with the end in mind, but it's more sophisticated than that, because it's not just talking about, oh, well, we know where we want to go. It's like, let's see if we can find a solution, not necessarily fuss over what the cause is if we don't need to. Try to find a solution that's appropriate for our end goal, our end target, and then take action towards it as soon as possible. So action plus solution appropriately directed at the end result we want. Don't lose focus, don't lose direction going, oh, we found something really amazing here. It's irrelevant to the project we're on, but it's really great, such as a laser, okay? Instead, define clearly where you want to go. We've already discovered this or talked about this through several of these videos, but this is a refinement where you're putting it into a more comprehensive mindset, okay? So a bias towards result. Your solution plus pragmatic action, specifically by keeping the desired end result in mind. That's it for episode 11 of Crush It Club. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.